I'm going to preface this video with saying that we are not a Market Watch channel, and we probably will never be a Market Watch channel. We're going to leave the market watches to the channels that do it best. M40, House of Champs, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pisano. Those are the channels that do it best. We're not a Market Watch channel. However, you guys have been asking me for months about investing in cards, and this is going to be probably a one and done video to talk about why I personally invest in certain cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! And hopefully you guys take something beneficial away from this. If you guys are new here, consider subscribing. Be sure to hit the notification bell. That's how you guys will get notified whenever I upload. Today's real topic is basically going to go over expensive cardboard and why I invest in it, and why I feel that depending on whether you're going to be a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Player or a casual player, you can take a lot from this on should you invest in these key cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! I've broken down into pretty much like 5 little categories, and we'll go through them as we proceed through the video. And yeah, hopefully you guys do enjoy. If you do, be sure to communicate that with me. You know, smash that like button. It really supports the channel, and I do appreciate it. So I'm going to start with a card that you guys have seen in more deck profiles than I can count, and I know you guys are tired of it. Phantasmes. All right, I get it. This card, it's expensive. This card is worth its weight in gold because of how strong this card is. Everyone knows why this card is good. This card is good because it helps you fix your brick hands. It answers your opponent when they link summon. It becomes a free body on the board, and it protects your board from targeting. We know all the effects of this card. I went over them just for anyone who doesn't know. Now everyone is wondering, why would you invest in this card? So one thing I'm going to tell you guys is that I am guilty of not researching sets before they are released. Most of you know this. It's become kind of a joke on the channel because I never really do set analysis and stuff like that, because honestly, I don't take the time to read all the cards that come out in a set. I know there are a lot of channels that do, and I give you kudos for that. I just don't have the time nor the patience to really go through an entire set of cards. However, when I know there's a really important card coming out, it gets highlighted through multiple Facebook groups, it gets highlighted through you guys commenting to me, through messages you guys send me, and this was one of the cards that got mentioned. Before this, I could say the closest thing to this was Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs, and I can tell you guys right now, I did not ever pay retail on any of these cards. The reason being is because I knew after reading the card, after hearing from you guys, after hearing all the interactions, this is a card that you're going to need, and you're going to need it for the foreseeable future of the game. And it was a card that I invested in because I knew I need this card. I figured out all the reasons why I needed it. Playing Thunders at the time, the ability to use it against Sky Strikers, even though we already had a good matchup, it made the matchup that much better. It made it so that we would have an answer whenever our opponent would link summon, and would help us dig to fix our hand so that we could play the next turn, so we could interrupt our opponent on their turn, and so that we could proceed to win the game. At the end of the day, what we wanted to do was sculpt our hand, put a body on board, and win the game. And we did that with Phantasme. The reason why I felt this was one of the most optimal cards to invest in is because I knew this was one of the main cards out of Savage Strike that was going to sell the set. It wasn't that hard to figure out. It was just a very important card, and I felt that I needed to have a set of this. To me, it felt like Max C. Being able to draw cards, being able to fix your hand, sculpt your hand. You can't really put a price tag on that, even though I know there's a price tag on this card. But those of you that play competitively know that when a card is this powerful, it's worth investing in. And this is a card that I would put in a category called kind of like I don't want to say an evil, a necessary evil, but yeah, Phantasme is a necessary evil, I feel, in every format going forward because of Link monsters. Now, when Master Rule 5 comes out, will Links be obsolete? I don't think so. I don't think that's at all what's going to happen, and I feel this is a card that you guys should have invested in. Again, it didn't get its reprint, which does suck. I am a full 100% advocate for reprints that you guys know why. I feel everyone should have access to the same card pool. I don't think it's fair that some players have advantages just because they have access to cards. I feel everyone should have access to the same card pool to make the games more fair, but you know, that's neither here nor there. But it was definitely a card that I did not regret investing in, and it was again a necessary evil because of the formats. A very similar card to that is Infinite Impermanence. Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, Slim, is this literally a video just to flex? Absolutely not. This card did get a reprint, and we'll talk about that as well. But this falls into kind of the same category. I felt it was a necessary evil at the time to pick this card up because not only did I notice that the card was a better effect veiler, I noticed that the OCG was also playing this card in triplicate, and this was a card that they would either have in their main deck or their side deck. Another thing you guys can take away from this video is that when you're looking to cards to invest in, look to the OCG. Yes, our lists are different. Yes, our formats are different. Yes, they have Max C. Damn them, they have Max C. but they do set a lot of trends that do come here to the TCG, and we can learn a lot from them. The ability to have access to infinite impermanence was a necessary evil, again, that was necessary for the format. Now again, I didn't play retail on these. The biggest mistake I think people make is they buy stuff at the sneak preview. Now I know, if you have a tournament the very next day, which really shouldn't happen, you really shouldn't have big tournaments on a Sunday, but if for some reason you do and you absolutely need to just break the bank to get these cards, I think you're doing something wrong. I always felt that Sneak Peek is the worst place to get cards because they are overhyped and their price is just expedited through the roof. And I really don't think that that's how you should be getting these cards. I feel that you guys should know ahead of time, okay, don't be like me, don't research the whole set, but look for like the key cards. That's what I did for each set. For Savage Strike, I looked at Phantasma, I looked at Pot of Extravagance, I looked at the cards that I knew were going to be the chase cards, and I thought, okay, what is the pre-sale price? It's too expensive. What is the price on Sneak Peek? It's too expensive. What's the price on set release? It depends. One thing I can tell you guys is that you can also make friends with vendors. I think that is one of the most important things you can do too, is make friends with vendors and know what they're selling their cards for. I can't tell you guys how much money you guys can save if you know local vendors, you know ahead of time to get the cards, you know to tell them, hey, can you set aside a set of this aside for me? See if they'll give you a deal. That's one of the best things you can do. That's something I don't think a lot of people talk about, because a lot of people buy stuff off TCG Player, they buy stuff off of eBay, all these other websites. They never take the time to realize that sometimes your local vendors can be your best friends. They can also be some of your worst enemies. I know it's true. I know not all vendors are fair, but for me, I've had the access to some of the best vendors in all of California, and they've definitely helped me along the way to get these cards. Because I'll tell you guys right now, I could not do this on my own. I could not get all these really good cards on my own. I have so many vendors that have helped me over the years, and recently with all these expensive cards like Phantasma, Impermanence, Pot of Extravagance, just different cards, and they've really helped me out a lot. And I feel that a card like Phantasma, a card like Impermanence, those are cards that were necessary evils because of the format. I wanted to play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Locals was fine, regionals was fine, but I wanted to go to YCSs, I wanted to go to nationals. There were certain cards you needed to have for those events, and these were those said cards. And do I regret investing in them? Absolutely not. I've gotten mileage out of these cards, and that's another thing we're going to touch upon. But these fall into the category of necessary evils. The beauty of this card, it got a reprint. It lowered the price a decent amount, not a huge amount by most players' standards, but when reprints do happen, definitely jump on those. You're going to pay a lot less. If you really care about the rarity, you might be in the wrong game, because sometimes what you need to realize is that a common and a secret are going to play the same exact way. They're going to do the same exact thing. And yes, the ultra reprint of Impermanence was not as popular as the secret, but you know what? The card does the same thing for a fraction of the price. And I think that's one thing that players need to get out of their head, is that you have to have the highest rarity to succeed. By all means, if you want the highest rarity, go ahead. I don't have the highest rarity of everything, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Certain cards only come in one rarity, but for those that come in reprint, there's no reason to pay more when you can get the same card for a lower price. So that's just another thing. So those are the necessary evil cards. Now there's a couple more little categories. So I have deck specific cards in the shape of Pot of Extravagance and Gizmek Orochi. The the Serpentron Sky Slasher. I had to say the whole name just for this video, but these cards fall into a what I like to call a deck dependent, kind of like a deck dependent category. Now what this means is that I got these cards for specific decks. I got Pot of Extravagance for all different types of trap decks and stun decks, and I got Gizmek Orochi for the Grey Maju deck. Now, you don't have to do this. This just depends on what deck you're playing. Best example I can give you guys with Pot of Extravagance. Those of you that played Altergeist, you guys know I played Altergeist, and at one point, Pot of Extravagance was not out at that time. Pot of Extravagance gets announced. You know it's a card that you're going to need if you're going to continue to play one of these stun-based strategies. These become a necessary evil, but also a deck-dependent strategy. You have to ask yourself, am I still going to play this deck in this upcoming format? Is my deck still optimal? Does this card make my deck better? Yes, it does. It makes Altergeist better. It makes Subterror better. It makes these stun decks, these like Inspector Border stun decks better. It makes, God forbid, the Mystic Mind Burn deck better. It makes Necros better. It gives draw power to decks that didn't have it before, and those that don't depend on the extra deck are able to really benefit from a card like Pot of Extravagance. Let you draw two. They let you draw two. We know what happened with Pot of Desires. It doesn't get better than that. Again, deck dependent. Same thing with Gizmek Orochi. There are only 2 decks that have played this card. It is literally the Grand Maju deck and Orcus. Now Orcus only play 1 copy, so you could invest in 1 copy. The reason why I chose to invest in 3 copies is because for, again, the Grand Maju deck. I also knew that if I wanted to play Orcus, I already have my 1 copy. If there was ever another banished deck, this card would be, you know, absolutely optimal in the deck. Now, one thing I can say is that you can also learn to pick up cards based on the results of a YCS that are going on day 1. And I say day 1 specifically and a little bit of day 2 because once a deck wins, it completely just makes the market go crazy. If you watched all the Market Watch channels I've mentioned, you guys see how the YCSs impact prices. One beauty of following the coverage or following the live streams is you can see what's doing well. You can read what's at top tables. And if you see a common trend, you can start to, you know, build your ideas from that. I got these Gizmek Orochis as Yishan was about to win the YCS. I got them before the price spiked to where they went, I think it was like 30 or more a pop. It might have been some crazy price, but I got these a lot earlier than the actual price spike. And it was because I was paying attention to those things, and those are key things. Now I know when you're at events, sometimes it's hard to do that, but you yourself can read the top tables. You can see, okay, this deck is doing well. Oh, this deck is doing well. They're playing these common strategies. You read the feature matches. You read about tech cards. When you read about tech cards, you see it from, you know, well-known players. You know, you see it in certain decks. At that point, you can decide, okay, am I going to invest in this or not? And it's at that point you have to make that decision. I made that decision with the Gizmek Orochis, and I never looked back. I paid very minimal for these cards, and they've seen a lot of mileage. I played the deck at locals. I played the deck at YCS. I played, you know, these strategies before. You've seen these in deck profiles that I make for you guys, and that's another thing, is that these became deck dependent cards, but they were cards that I myself felt that, okay, I'm not paying retail on them, I'm paying a fraction of what they were, I have good vendors that hook me up on prices, you know, it's a good investment for me. Now again, I know not everyone has access to that, but it's something I'm telling you guys right now. You have to make the decision. Do I need this card for my deck? Is it dependent? Is it deck dependent? Like Pot of Extravagance would be for Altergeist and Subterrors, and Gizmek Orochi would be for the 1 copy for Orcus and the 3 copies for Grand Maju. It really depends. When you can check all those boxes, then you know that those cards are absolutely necessary. And the last little thing I'm going to talk about is, I had to bring this one up because I think you guys have noticed in every Thunder Dragon deck profile, in every extra deck, I bring up BLS. Now, why did I pick up BLS? I picked up BLS because of how insane the card was and how it really was optimal to play it in Thunder. After I saw the winner of the UDS played in their extra deck, and they talked about how Solomon Greats struggle against it, how Sky Strikers struggle against it. I knew it was a card I needed to play. Thunders were able to make it so easily because of the high level monsters you have that you could get all its built-in protection as well as have its crazy effect. And I can't tell you guys how many games this card won for me over the course of me getting this card. I've played it at YCSs, I've played it at regionals, I've played it at locals, and every time I've summoned it, it has been outed a couple times because, you know, there are outs to it. But when the opponent couldn't answer it immediately, it could be your ticket to winning. And that's another thing, is you have to question, is a card worth investing if it means I can win a game? The other best thing I could compare this to was Boral Sword Dragon. It was a card that I think at one point was, what, 80 bucks? And people would buy it in order to guarantee that one punch win. And that was the thing, is that with BLS, is I felt, okay, it has only this one printing. I was able to get it for a good deal from a vendor, and I know I'm going to make this card. I'm going to make this card in my deck, and it's definitely going to be worth the investment. Another thing I can tell you guys is that when you know you're going to use a card more than once per game, once per duel, you're going to use it over the course of a whole tournament, depending on what level of tournament it is, that's when you know if you need to invest in a card or not. Now, the beauty of all these cards, you can buy them, you can sell them. Like I said, that's how the market works. I'm not a Market Watch channel. We're going to say that a million times during this video, but I can tell you guys, these are the ways I choose to invest in cards. I really weigh the pros and the cons of getting the cards. Am I going to use them? What deck am I going to use them in? Are they necessary for this certain deck? And again, if you can check all those boxes, then that's what you should do when it comes to investing in cards. And the last thing I can tell you guys, if you're really not sure, the best thing you can do is test the cards out online. The beauty is, the whole database is online. You literally can test it. You guys have seen the phone app that I use, the Yugipedia. You guys have used Dueling Book. You guys have used YGO Pro. you can see how optimal you use these cards. How often do they come up? How often do you drop Phantasmic? How often do you make the BLS link? How often do you want to have Pot of Extravagance in your stun deck? How often do you want to have Gizmek Orochi in your Grand Maju deck? Again, when you can check all those boxes, then it's definitely one of the best things you can do, and at that point you can decide to invest in the cards or not. Or you can just be lucky and borrow them all. I'm not going to sit here and say that you need to invest in everything. Some of you might be lucky enough to borrow everything. I can't tell you how many cards I've borrowed over the years, but these are cards from my personal collection that I feel best represent what I was trying to get across in this video, and hopefully you guys learned something from it, because this isn't about flashing around expensive cardboard. I don't think that solves anything. I'm a huge advocate for reprints. I think every card should be reprinted. Konami, you need to reprint Phantasmic. You need to reprint Extravagance. You need to reprint the BLS link. You need to reprint all these cards so that every player has access to them. I'm a huge advocate for that. You're never going to hear it any differently on this channel, but I can tell you guys this. Listen to what I had to say today. These are my honest opinions, and this is how I go about investing in cards. When I feel a card is worthwhile, then I choose to invest in it when I know I'm going to get the most mileage of it. And these cards right here have seen play in so many of my decks that I definitely don't regret it. But that's the video today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your investment stories, why you invest in certain cards, and we'll definitely continue the discussion down in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to smash that like button if you did, and I'll be bringing more discussions and more videos to you guys in the future. Again, if you guys do want to buy all these cards, though, if you do want to invest in them, you can use my TCG player link. It's down in the description below. A portion of what you buy will go back to the channel. It'll help me out, and I really do appreciate it. But yeah, not a Market Watch channel. Go to the Market Watch channels. You'll learn something. Little note, I watch all the Market Watches. You know why? Because it teaches you something. Those are some of the most valuable videos out on YouTube, and I think more players need to realize it. They basically take all the hard work out of it. They take all the thinking that you would have to do out of the equation. You can literally learn from that and learn about investments. There's nothing worse than a certain channel telling you to invest in something and then you don't, and then it comes back to bite you in the ass. I've been there. We've all been there. We don't want to repeat that mistake. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the topic. I'd like to hear yours in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.